We will be. Hello, everyone. You can continue to introduce yourselves in the chat. If you're just joining us, welcome to this PAX talk. Essential Shores Permeable Future, which is going to be a really exciting talk here in just a moment. But before we get started, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping, introduce you all to Public Art Exchange. If you are not familiar with Public Art Exchange, we are a group of allied professionals in the public art field. So public art administrators, artists, anybody who is interested in public art is welcome to join Public Art Exchange. It is a free network to connect with your peers, to share information, and to have opportunities to learn and come to forums and talks like this one this evening that we're all gathered here together for. It is free to join again at publicartexchange.org. We are also doing a really fun thing in the fall. We'll be having a real life meetup. So you can stay tuned for that. We're excited to release more information about that. But I am Laura McDermott. I am one of the co-chairs of programming for Public Art Exchange. We are all volunteers, and we are really excited to host talks and exchanges and a virtual platform. And if you are ever wanting to do your own PAX talk, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to myself. I believe my colleague Renee Paichaki is also on this call this evening. And we would be happy to hear about what you want to talk about and present to your colleagues. So, and that's how this program actually is happening this evening. So we're so excited to have this PAX talk tonight. And on your screen right now, there is a link to donate. Again, it is free network, free to join, free to be a part of. But if your heart feels called to donate to Public Art Exchange to help support the platform and programming, that would be incredible. So tonight, here we are. My computer keeps making a noise. For Essential Shore Permeable Future, I'm going to introduce our incredible panel moderator this evening, and then she will introduce the rest of the team here on the call. So Jennifer McGregor is the exhibition coordinator or curator whose place-based curating focuses on ecological, historical, and cultural concerns. She works locally and nationally to activate public spaces and create opportunities for artists to engage diverse audiences. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, and I'm going to monitor the chat for any questions as we move through the talk this evening and put some links in the chat that are relevant to the talk as well. So Jennifer, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and share yours. Oh, you are muted.
That would make a difference. So let me put my screen on. Okay. Are you seeing it? If I put it into slide mode.
Yeah.
There. Okay. It looks almost like the last screen. Um, anyway, thank you, Laura and Renee, for hosting us tonight. And I'm here with artist Betsy Damon, Angel Navarez, and Valerie Taver, Sima Lisa Pena, and Janine Bardo. And we are all part of Essential Shore Permeable Future. And this has been so this is basically the Bay Ridge Public Art and Ecology Biennial. Janine and I, 2 years ago, worked on Bay Ridge through an ecological lens, which followed a similar format. And we're back again with this programming, exhibition, and film screening that focuses on the shoreline of Bay Ridge. So for those of, I should have, now that I'm looking at this, I should have put a map, but you are probably familiar with the Verrazano Bridge. And the Verrazano Bridge connects Brooklyn and Staten Island, and it is at the Narrows, which is the mouth of the New York Harbor. So it's a very important ecological place. It's a very important place historically. It has a terrific neighborhood, and Janine Bardo has Stand For Gallery, which is a hub for arts and culture in the middle of the neighborhood. And from this hub, we launch a whole range of programming throughout the neighborhood. And so Betsy, Angel, Valerie, and Seema are three of the artists that are part of our program. And you can see the list of the other artists. I'm going to just start by giving a quick introduction to the exhibition so you see where we're coming from. But what we're mostly going to do is engage in a conversation with the team that's here today. So, as I said, Stand For Gallery is in what was once a dentist office in the middle of the neighborhood. And you can see that on the right. And I'm just showing Jan Munn's project, which you can see how one person's project can be expressed throughout the neighborhood. On the left, you see the day that we were kite flying in the rain. We will be kite flying again on Saturday. So anyone who's in the New York area, please come out and join us. And then we have one of our hubs is at the library, and that's where you can see Jan's kites, and you can also see um, the Graciela Cassell's kaleidoscope. And the importance to the kites is they have the symbols that represent tardigrades, which are important parts of lichen, which are a way of monitoring the health of the air. So with the shore, we also are considering the air quality. Nicole Perafit is an artist who is based in Bay Ridge and has been studying the purple sandpipers for many years. And this is her installation in the gallery. So each artist has something in the gallery. And then for Nicole's engagement project, she did a birding tour on the ferry. So the ferry that takes you from Manhattan to along the Brooklyn shore, she took people on a bird watching trip. Sunk Shore is the team of Clarinda McLeod and Carolyn Hall, and they have been doing incredible activation throughout the neighborhood for, I would say, the last 8 months since the summer. And here we're seeing one of their activations on that same rainy day that we did kite flying. They'll also be back on the pier next Saturday. And here in the gallery, on the right, we see their sort of a composite of the work they're doing with the community is looking at past, present, and future, and how we've been affected by climate over time. And one of the amazing things that their group did was a film called From Brownstones to, Jeanine, it's Brownstones to
Brownstones to flood zones.
Flood Zones, which was just screened at our film screening last week, and that's on view in the gallery, which was totally community produced about the way community members are dealing with climate change. Brooke Singer's Carbon Sponge Project, we see this here where our goal was to be able to plant sorghum throughout the neighborhood, but we didn't quite have the on-ramp time to do that. So she started the seedlings in the gallery, and they have been distributed to people throughout the neighborhood. Her larger project is Carbon Sponge, which originated in Queens and is now upstate, and is a study with scientists for creating kind of absorbing carbon into the earth through sorghum planting. And I'm not showing everybody's project, but just to give the sense of the range of things that engagements that have been going on. Thomas Gallagher has Lingo Bingo Bay Ridge, and this has been happening all over. We can see him here at the Senior Center and in front of the gallery. And his bingo game is based on the different languages that are spoken in Bay Ridge, and he's using about 9 languages, including Quechua, Spanish, Chinese, Greek, all different languages. And it's a way that people engage with each other through words that are related to climate and the environment, as well as immigration. So that just gives you a quick overview. Janine, is there anything I've forgotten or you want to add?
No, I think just with Thomas's, he chose the languages of the community. Like wherever he goes, he chooses the languages that are prominent in the community, and he does his research. And so those are the more spoken languages in Bay Ridge,
Yeah.
or ancient, older ones too. And yeah, it was just working with Jennifer on the second biennial and bringing this out into the community again was a great project. And we were able to go even deeper into the community and engage more people. So it's been a very rich experience.
And we also have in addition to the library, there's a couple of outdoor pieces in the parks, and Seema will be talking about her piece, which is in the Narrows Botanical Garden. So anyway, that's the backdrop that we're working in. And so what are some of the things we want to talk about today with this particular platform are having each person talk about the critical issues that they're addressing in their work and how they're engaging. What are their strategies for engagement? We also want to just briefly reflect on what it's like to be presenting art and art about climate in this current moment, because it's been actually really the first day that we opened the show was the day of the Hands Off March, and last Saturday was the No Kings March, and of course there's been lots of marches and protests in between. So I think we all feel it's been really important to be doing something that's very community focused, very community based. I think I'm from Manhattan, but the rest of you are joining us today from Brooklyn. So it is really great to be able to work in our own neighborhoods. And then if we have time, we have thoughts about what we think about permanence and longevity and the effects of the work that we're doing. So how's that sound? Good place to jump off from. So I thought I would just start, Betsy, with you. And we're showing here the micro and macro water in action. And this is the piece that Betsy's made in the gallery, which is a real departure. We're going to be leading into some of the work that she's known for. But I thought if you want to just talk to us and introduce this way that you've been working with water and
Sure. Um, sure. Okay. This piece, when Donald Trump got elected, this piece was like, okay, I'm going to make outrageous beauty. And everything in this piece is from two water things that I have in my big, vast vocabulary. And but water is the creative agent of everything in life. That's it. And it wasn't, I mean, I just had a lot of fun, honestly, of putting together these two elements here, which there's no time to really explain them. And there's octopuses in there because I love them and they're so intelligent with their three hearts. And water talks back. That's all I'm going to say. I was just in Ireland and I went to a sacred water site and it talked back to me. So water talks to you, but we've kind of forgotten it. And or we're not even in communication. So, but this is rooted in that experience I had of talking to water, bringing people to talk to their waters and listening to the waters and what the water really wants. And, you know, the water says to everybody, hey, I'm fine. Get yourself well. And the other thing that I'll just add is that in relationship to climate change, if we repaired our water systems, climate change would vanish quickly. Like we have 800,000 dams in our country, take a third of them away. The waters would flow, they contain CO2, they cool, they have life in them. So there's a whole thing here. But, and also because I had broken bones, I really couldn't run around. So I got to be in my studio doing this. And I just hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Okay, that's enough.
And then we have a couple of pictures. See if we're advancing here.
I mean, usually I make in situ things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this park, which changed. In many ways, I could say now what I've learned, it actually changed a country. Like different provinces throughout China are adopting this. They're still calling the government of Chengdu and asking them to tell them how to do it. There's a big wetland in Lhasa. I travel around and they say, "Look, we copied you." And so I was, I didn't set out to do this. It's a story in a book, and it's in the book I wrote, Water Talks. But every community can do their versions, and every community now I've gotten like word from Africa, China, England, other places where people are using the book, and in the United States to take on their waters. And it's being translated into French and Chinese. And it's still radical, I discovered. And this is in Turtle Bay, Northern California. Uh, so, and it explains different, like how much water they use locally is the domestic, and then it has another section that's industrial, and then another section that's agricultural, which you can't see here. And it's right on the main path in the Turtle Bay Arboretum. I asked them, how much water do you have? Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Use all the water you want. Well, guess what? They had a drought and everything had to close down except this project because I did it low water. That's enough.
Okay, thanks, Betsy.
Yeah, thank you.
And now moving on to Angel and Valerie.
Hi, thank you for having us today. Yeah, so we thought we'd share a number of projects that we had created that deal with public engagement to a certain degree, music and song lyrics as material. And, you know, our projects are often site contextual, they're collaborative, they bring together ideas around public engagement and music production, and they're looking to distinct spaces and their transformation in relation to other locales, neighborhoods, and cities. And, you know, we're interested in within these works, like building an awareness of the larger socio-political sphere and spatial practices as well. So the images that you're seeing right here are from a project we did back in 2007 called the FM Ferry Experiment. And this was an 8-day mobile radio project on the Staten Island Ferry. That was held during September of 2007. We set up a temporary radio station. We bounced our signal to the College of Staten Island, CUNY, where there's a student-run radio station, and then our sound was transmitted throughout the tri-state area. And, you know, we were really interested in thinking about the idea of the social and commuter space of the ferry as a locale for radio broadcast, for performance, for audience interaction. You know, in a sense, the ferry became a transmission medium, right? So as well as a mode of public transportation. And the image on the left that you're seeing is Angel working the boards and some commuters who asked if they can get on the mic and sing a song at that particular moment.
Yeah, and just to add to some of the other critical issues that govern our work, as Valerie mentioned, I guess politics, social engagement are very important. And we also kind of think of our work in alignment with the great Russian filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein and his ideas about the role of art as having a social mission. So of course that's all tied into kind of politics, and in this case, on the FM Ferry, radio is a political site. The electromagnetic spectrum is a contested space. It is a public space, so we thought if it is public, then we're going to occupy it and not have to wait for people to give us permission to do so. So that was very important. The other aspect about this work and most of our other projects is that our work happens outside of our studio, and it also happens in certain public contexts. And we feel that in many ways that the public, for the most part, completes the work. So this can also bring in ideas into the work, ideas of chance, chance possibilities, and keeping things kind of open and seeing what might happen when you create a situation and a potential for action to happen.
Thank you.
Right. And this work has a long title, Listening to Jimi Hendrix, The Star-Spangled Banner While Driving North and South on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And this piece is actually in the show at Stanford Gallery. And, you know, we do a lot of, or we've created a number of projects that are cover songs that we've, you know, created over time. And, you know, this one, instead of creating a cover song, we were really interested in, through our car radio, playing Jimi Hendrix Star-Spangled Banner, or his rendition, which was also a protest rendition, while we were driving north and south on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. And, you know, we listened to via car radio to this song. And, you know, we were interested in marking time, and through the duration of the continuous recording, the distance across the bridge, the length of the song heard. And, you know, each channel in this piece is specific to its directionality as well. So, you know, you're seeing both left and right, or you're hearing both left and right channel while you're seeing north and south simultaneously. And as we all know, you know, in March of 2024, the bridge had collapsed. So this also kind of functions as a time capsule of this particular commuter space. So we went from one commuter space to another one, I realized, in this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I should also add that most of our work does deal with music, sound, lyric writing, as Valerie mentioned. So in this case that we're seeing here, Layers of the City, it's a title to a project, but it's also a title to a song that we wrote by the same name. And the song structure is a cumulative song. So if you think of the 12 days of Christmas, there's a constant progression of verses and a regression as you sing the words, the lyrics backwards. So in this case, we wrote a 12 verse song, mainly about the transformation of place through its economics, without bringing the big word that starts with the G into this. We were thinking about, space availability, how space transforms with culture and time. So we were noticing here in Santa Ana, where the project was first brought to fruition, that there was an economic change and a cultural change that was happening in downtown Santa Ana, where a lot of the mom and pop quinceañera dress shops and Mexican restaurants were being transformed into boutique artisanal mayonnaise shops, or artisanal bratwurst shops, craft beer shops, food courts. So we were basically singing about the transformation of Santa Ana, but also inviting locals to be a part of our project. And that's maybe you want to speak to how we started working with people, or
Yeah, just quickly, because I know we have limited time, but so we created a situation in which in our studio in Santa Ana during this time, we set up an audition for vocalists and musicians to participate in the project. In the end, we had 12 vocalists, and it starts out, the video starts out with one vocalist, and then the assembly grows over time. It also, if it grows, it regresses, I guess would be the other word. And over time as well. So this constant back and forth between growth and regression, and which is something that we think a lot about in terms of the big G gentrification term. Right, but in the end, we have a larger assembly of bodies and voices who've come together, which in a sense for us, we were hoping would create this, alternative cumulative assembly. Yeah. So we can,
I
and
think we should probably move through this a little bit.
I know we will.
Yeah, we'll just
This is such a fascinating project.
yeah, and we can just say it in one sentence. So this is a public engaged project thinking about a neighborhood score. So this neighborhood is made up of musicians in New Orleans. It's called Musicians Village is the neighborhood. And musicians own their houses through subsidies, which we won't go into now. But the idea was to create a a jam session, so to speak, but organized jam session where the musicians playing in front of their homes, but spaced out throughout their neighborhood. So there was a lot of technological hocus pocus that we had to do in order to deal with latency of music when you're thinking about spatiality.
Right, and the map on the right side in the previous slide shows the houses in which the musicians were performing from. Just thought I'd mention. And yeah, and this project actually, we were thinking of it in terms of a response to climate change and, the necessity to build an understanding of the relationships and the realities of the changing landscape. And, New Orleans is a musical city at the front line of the climate crisis. And so some of those themes came through in the neighborhood score that we built together with the resident musicians.
And this, people can view this on your website too. There's a video that's really, really moving.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is. Thank you for adding that to the chat.
All of the pieces, but.
And then this one was recent at the Firefly just a couple weekends ago. These are some images of previous iterations of Another Protest Song Karaoke. Another Protest Song Karaoke started in 2008. It's been ongoing since then. Our songbook is continuously growing, but basically we've curated a songbook made up of particularly protest songs, but also songs that have a transformative potential in their lyrics or in their title. And, we invite the public to sing songs of protest, to maybe get up on stage and let us know what it is that they may be or may not be protesting. It could also be about the joy of singing. And I think in this political moment, we all need a bit of joy. So I think there is a bit of catharsis to this project as well. And these are images from the recent iteration at the Firefly. You can see Jennifer on stage there.
Yeah, and also, it was, I can say it was, I still am humming the 3 songs that I got to sing all these days later.
That's great.
And Janine was up there. I think you were taking the pictures, Janine, but we actually, Janine and I got to sing together.
We did, and it was a very
right?
Yeah, and it was a very joyful experience, and also very cathartic and very, for some reason, it just really a really good release. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So now, oops, I didn't mean to like.
Yeah, you don't want to hear me.
I know. How do I turn it off? Okay, I'm just trying to get to the next, because we don't have time. There we go. We don't have time to listen to all the karaoke. That will be no fun for the audience. But we can now move on to Seema's beautiful project that is in the Narrows Botanical Garden.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and I'm really excited just to be part of this this exhibition with such amazing artists. This piece is called Rain Thal. Thal in South Asian music refers to the rhythm. And so I'll tell you a little bit about the piece, and then we can go into inspiration more. But so these are 3 pieces. They're sitting in the gardens. The intention is that the vessels above would capture rainwater, and then there are adjustable drips, and so they drip onto, basically they're these stainless steel bowls at the bottom. And so, you know, it's different sizes of bowls, plus the different heights from that create different rhythms. Now, when I first designed this, the idea was that these could be tuned so that, you know, open the drip more and you get like a faster drip, and then so that you can kind of create this percussive symphony. There is a highway behind it, so you can't really hear too much. But you know, hey, this is also kind of the first iteration of what is going to be what I'd like to build out into a series. And so not all of them would be necessarily open like this, but some of them might be, you know, attached to like a building's stormwater system, so that these could, you know, grow into something that could become more building integrated. They are made from a material called Rich Light, which I've been using on several of my public pieces recently. Rich Light is it's essentially recycled paper that's been pulped, and then they make them into these big sheets that are then kind of impregnated with phenolic resin. They use them on skate parks. There are, you know, certain lines that they use for exterior cladding of buildings. And it's got, you know, all these different, I won't bore you, but all the different environmental certifications for the material itself. One thing that, well, I'll talk about it in the next piece. So yeah, these are outside and they're on view. It's been kind of fun coming and seeing, you know, as I walk past, there's been like lots of birds perching on them. There's been a lot of bird poop on them, but it's been a really fun. I've actually seen animals like drinking from them when they are full, but the idea is that the water is not standing, because we don't want that, but that if it's allowed with the continuous drip, that it's you know, that it's really only activated for a certain amount of period when it's full. I'd have to say that this piece was inspired by by work from another public artist, Ned Kahn, who you know, has this vortex water piece that was part of a building, and you know, the idea he had was, hey, when it rains, you know that this piece is getting activated, and that's what leads you to want to come and experience it. And so for me, I loved that idea of, you know, connecting to the rain cycle through a piece that would only be activated when it does actually rain. So so yeah, that's kind of the intention, is to reconnect you to, you know, for the piece to be activated because of larger cycles that it exists in.
Well, and of course, this spring it has rained constantly,
Right.
and your artist talk on Saturday was rained out. So
to be continued, we will reschedule. Actually, what's going to be really fun for those of you in Brooklyn, we are going to do a rescheduling date. My husband is a musician. We've gotten these contact mics that we're going to start pulling. He's going to pull some of the amplified sound from these drips, and then, you know, do live mixing and overtone throat singing, and just kind of, you know, create where we'll have a great time with it.
should I move on to the next one?
Sure. Yeah. This is another piece a couple years ago that was in the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. This is called The Seed of Potential, and it's made out of 2 sculptures. One is called The Seed, and the other one is called The Emerging Seed. These are also made out of Rich Light, and this was like a multi-layered Rich Light piece. But, you know, I was also, for this one, it was also celebrating kind of this incubative place that nature can bring for us. So when people go into the piece that's on the left, the seed, the idea is that people are walking in and around it, and it's like you're inside of a womb. So all of the fractal kind of potential of growth is all inward facing. And then you would look up into the roof of this thing, and there are these layered openings that is almost like where an umbilical cord may come out, or the birth canal, or if it's a seed for a plant, this is where the sprout might want to come out and be, join the outside world. Whereas on the other piece, the emerging seed is now the exact same forms, but now facing outwards, growing outwards, almost like a tree and a plant. So these are actually puzzle pieces of each other. And so when I design with a lot of like keeping the balance of the negative and positive space, to save material. So there's little to no waste here, but they also then speak to each other. Some of the other pieces also, like you can see on the right-hand side, even some of those drip pieces have been that kind of raindrop form. Those I also like kind of design other pieces through the negative spaces. This one also, I had like kind of a ritual ceremony where I had community members just give me one word descriptions of like ideas they would like to grow for a better future. And so those got etched on the back side of both of these pieces. And then this one is called Resonant Nature. It was on top of the green point, and this is really kind of the idea that nature has a vibration, and resonance is really when other systems kind of lock on to that resonance. So the idea was, can we highlight nature within the city and see, and almost imagine the city in concert with this. So this is at a space called Noosphere Arts, Kingsland Wildflowers, and this is a native planted green roof, in the heart of industrial Brooklyn. So, but right behind you, these are the city's biodigesters. So this is where our compost is sent to be turned into compost, and part of it also feeds the sewage treatment plant next door. There's Sims recycling plant right down below. So the idea is like really on this site, you would feel that, okay, the city is actually trying slightly to try and mimic some of nature's processes. And on the right, you see this piece in the far distance. This was mounted. So if you look at this piece from a certain angle, this is, I call it the vagina of the piece. So this is the vulva right in the very back, and it's a pollinator habitat. So so it's a place for lacewings and solitary bees and other pollinators to overwinter. And just a quick note, because I don't want to take too long, but so a lot of, I started out really just exploring these mushroom kind of fractal forms. And, to me, I started out with the idea of a sine wave kind of being the essence of everything, sound, matter, everything has a vibration, but really that it is the sense of a push and a pull. And when we think about it, like it's a push and a pull between things trying to relate. And so, really started looking at this form in terms of negative and positive space, and even referation. And when you start to look at these forms in relation to each other, they start to form spines and circulatory systems and all of these things that are really, kind of fundamental forms in nature. So So that's kind of where all this stuff is coming from.
Well, thank you. I'm going to just stop sharing because that's the end of our pictures. But it's actually listening to everybody talk. It's really interesting the way that sound and water and how everything is kind of moving through the interest areas that you all have. And I think it's really interesting to also look at how you're all kind of connecting with the environment around you in really different ways. And it really shows the range of what artists can be doing. I just, Janine, is there something that you would like to add before we sort of jump into some questions? And
I think I'm going to leave it up for questions because I think there's a lot. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions. Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. I'm very grateful for this whole thing. I really enjoyed it myself listening to everybody. So,
well, I would like to just start with a question that was sort of I introed into, which was how it feels to be exhibiting, be participating with having your art out in the world in this particular moment. In 10 words or less.
I'll just say something quickly, which I didn't say, which is that that park was built totally collaboratively. I would even say I played a minor role in a certain way, which is why it worked. It was very much done by the Chinese. And and most USers can't accept that. But being out in the world these days, hard sometimes. But being in this show, I mean, I'm not as out there as many of you because I couldn't be, but I love it. And I think it's good. And it brings a lot of on the ground thinking, actions, connections, everything. And it's amazing how the very diversity of created made it all work.
Betsy, I just wanted to add also that the project that you did in China, you spent a long time there. It wasn't like flying in and out and being in lots of other places. It's like you were really embedded there, and it really couldn't have worked on that scale and that intensity without that you know
That's right. It would
your
never.
immersion, yeah, the immersion and the collaboration together, and the sort of processing the issues about water into the work that you were doing is really phenomenal.
It would never have worked. I went deeply in debt. And I had no contract. And they didn't expect me to actually be there as much as I was. But when that happened, I mean, it was very hard. They'd never created anything near like this. And an old long marcher said to me, Betsy, we always say we can't do something, and we're going to do this. But I mean, have to take an hour to even tell you all the stumbling blocks and things. And
Well, there is also a film
yeah,
about the project that people can watch too.
yeah. So, but only now am I starting to do projects on that scale in Europe.
Mhm.
And there is nothing in the United States on that scale.
Yeah.
So this man risks going to jail. But the money was publicly raised by the city.
Mhm.
It's a
Any
lot.
other thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, just in terms of being an artist out in the world these days, I think now is actually the time to be more in the public sphere. And as we saw the No Kings protests, that just about everybody in the United States came out in one way or another. So now is the time to be even more present, to be even more visible. And if
Yeah.
you're doing work that has a transformative politics, which I feel that we all are, that are part of this this cohort, that yeah, now's the time to even be even more in public, being more engaged.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And also, don't wait for money, just start something.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's kind of the nature of the enterprise of this show, actually. And it's very, Janine and her colleague Elizabeth have really pounded the pavement. It's very grassroots funded. SEMA was able to get a grant from the Brooklyn Arts Council to be able to, support what she was doing. So the projects may seem a little light touch, in part because it's very, the idea is to sort of invite people in to do something where they are. And I think, Seema, the other thing I like about your piece is that it gave you a sense to do a prototype. I mean, you've been working with this material, you have these ideas, you were able to figure out to scale it to this time and use it as an experimental. And I think that that's one of the things we look at with this show is it's a chance to experiment, to do something that you can bring. Betsy, you were experimenting with new work that nobody else has seen yet, and so the role that projects like this can play is really important.
Yeah, just following up on the question you asked about, making art in this time. I feel I find myself conflicted on like, how much outrage to put in my work, to be honest, because I feel like there's so much outrage just in general. But I'm a firm believer in the idea that if we to make work that is aiming to engage the audience with the environment. For me, I feel like I really want to come from a place that's in having people really feel the delight and the care for nature, because if we don't care for it, nobody's going to want to try and save it, in that sense.
That's really important.
Yeah, and the thing about nature is that we also forget sometimes that we as humans are also part of nature.
Yeah.
Part of the natural environment. We're made of the same components that any plant is or any other life form. So so we also have to take care of ourselves, and others need to take care of each other as well.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just a note that for these bigger shows that Stand For puts on and the community shows that were really out in the public space, choosing nature was very important because it's one thing we all have in common. So for me, it was one way to bring people with disparate views together, and and Bay Ridge has the Narrows, it has park space, it has a lot to be grateful for, but we live in a city, and also just that idea of how do you bring people together in conversation when there's all this going on. Well, nature brings, we all have our own experiences with nature, and so that was the idea of it too.
So we would love to hear any questions or comments from you all.
Come on.
There was a comment in the chat for SEMA. How did you arrive at the vertical ornamental forms?
Thank you. That's Deanna Lee. Yeah, so the vertical forms, I think there was, in creating this work there, I think I showed at the last slide just kind of a few images of some more free-forming places of experimenting with that form. But with the vertical nature of it, there is a little bit of like practicality that has to come in, because I was like, okay, I need to bring this up for a place for it to be able to drip from, and so there was so that needing to get height, and original designs kind of got really big and bulky, and and really just the need to simplify. So I kind of brought them down to more of a narrower piece, but then it also multiplied into three. And I think that, maybe not in this instance, but in future instances where the pieces are next to each other, the way they're designed is that those little shapes are right next to each other. So that the not that the sculptures would be in a row, but that you would also experience the negative space between the pieces. So almost like plants, there is that integration in between. Other questions?
So I have a question. Since all of these, interactions and works were, in public spaces and to try to prompt community conversation, was there any surprising conversation that happened, prompted by the artwork?
I think there were a few different experiences with the public and the exchanges with the public. With Sunk Shore's performance, what was surprising was that people engaged in this kind of dance and just came into it and ended up on a table, doing this kind of dance together, with the karaoke, just of how people just came together, that like it felt like you were with your family and you could just let it go, and with the Lingo Bingo and Thomas Gallagher's piece, also it was very engaging with the public and people speaking different languages and teaching people, and nobody really wanting to win this game. Like it was a bingo, kind of like a bingo game, but nobody really wanted to win. They wanted to keep it going. So there were a lot of really nice moments with strangers that I felt a lot of the artists did, they really did a great job. I mean, this work was very socially engaged and it was really a bonus for the community, and also connecting with the different institutes like the library and the senior center and the botanical garden. And they all the people that work there also had their own really good experiences with the artists and the artwork.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Let It Go, that was a song that was sung as well by someone who I think was there just eating pizza with his daughter, and he decided to get up and sing Let It Go, which is a protest song, right? It's an early, you can say a young feminist protest song. But to get back to that idea of like that kind of community engagement, the idea of everyone coming together and singing together, that communal act of singing together really builds community, and in the end we decide, oh well, let's sing a song, everyone sings a song together. We often ask that whenever we mount another protest song, and it's always different, and the song choices are always different too, which is really nice as well. Yeah.
Another thing too is I think it kind of daylights some of the artists who live in the neighborhood, like Hannah Saylor, who's this renowned illustrator. There she is signing books and doing a workshop in the library, and there aren't, even though we know New York City is like filled with arts organizations and arts groups, Janine is like it in Bay Ridge, so more or less, right? So it's this by doing this programming, it opens the doors for you when you're doing other, it's given you this like way to work with a library with other artists, when it's not the biennial, when you're doing other shows, it's opening up more doors to collaborate, and also people know about what you're doing.
It builds community, and live in isolation. too much. That's a signature of being a USer. Everywhere else I've been, it's never like that to this degree. And I think we need more things like this, like probably 4 times a year in different ways with different people to build community. And so that's what I'm going to say.
So I see that there's a couple other questions that Jack Becker's asking. Is it possible that something more permanent could result from one of the projects? Any thoughts?
Well, our karaoke piece is going to be in existence until music itself dies, like that great song, American Pie. So yeah, we see this as a permanent piece. It will, as long as new songs come into the public consciousness, this karaoke project will continue in that manner. But yeah, thank you for that question, Jack.
And Brainthal is there may be versions of this that I'm talking with Transmitter Park in Greenpoint. They are interested in installing one of these, but I'd probably do another iteration in a more permanent type of way. There's also friend and who is wanting to have one of these in their garden, at their home. So that will be a permanent piece. And so, there's some kinks to work out in terms of the water flow and how to make it low maintenance and all the different aspects for that. But yeah.
Yeah, there's a business that wants me to create a water falling down a pole, something, blah, blah, blah. I have to find the time to finish signing it up and what it's going to cost. And
But that's it. That's would be in Brooklyn, right?
yeah, that'll be in Brooklyn. You met him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and there are all kinds of things. That business would be happy to have artists do other things. So we could have a meeting, and brainstorm as a group. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention too, I mean, that was interesting on how that you mentioned like the karaoke, another protest song karaoke as being permanent, because our work is so often ephemeral and performative and, sometimes one-off, but that is one project that, is a continuing project and has the potential to continue, but always transform. So there is no permanency in that either, right? Depending on the songs that people choose or the songs that enter the All-American Songbook in the future as well. So we can't predict it. I guess permanency is always a difficult
Well, along those lines, the idea that Janine has this will be a biennial, it gives a chance to continue and build on these experiences every couple of years. I also have another question for Valerie on Angel from, can you talk more about the process and experience of creating the spatial score with the musicians in New Orleans?
We'll try to do that quickly. We met. We were in New Orleans initially to give a lecture at the University of New Orleans, and we met some musicians from Musicians Village. And through our discussions with them, we thought, oh, this could be a really interesting place to really think about, how creative communities and how creative communities are built up after tragic events like Hurricane Katrina. And Musicians Village was just that, right? With Habitat for Humanity and some local musicians as well. So, over a multi-year period, we were in conversation with musicians and contacted just about everyone in the neighborhood and asked, who would be interested in participating in this kind of experiment, and what might it sound like? How might we create, together create this idea of a neighborhood score, building a spatial musical piece across the neighborhood where everyone's playing together, where everyone's linked together, through technology as well. So, and you can jump into.
Yeah, I was just going to add that doing this kind of work is really exciting, and it's very interesting, and it's something that we've been doing for a very long time. So let's see, Marilee Latterman Euclides has what she coins maintenance art. I would say that this project with the social score was management art, where we had to, be managers or administrators in a certain way,
Yeah.
because not only did we have to reach out to the individual musicians in the neighborhood, but we had to get permits to close down the streets. So there was all this other kind of back-end administrative management stuff that we had to negotiate. And I guess that's what kind of makes this kind of artwork interesting, is that now you have to, talk to these people and those people. So that's what makes it exciting.
Well, it becomes, and it's a community process in that way, right? It felt like for us, I mean, and in discussing with folks who were audience members, that on that particular day, walking through the neighborhood, experiencing the various sounds coming from porches and yards of the musician collaborators, they said it felt like they were walking inside of a band, right? So, and walking through the music. And I think that was something that we were really thinking about in this whole process, and the idea of a community coming together to build something. And people ask, well, why did you do this? And because of course we weren't residents of Musicians Village, but we were interested in thinking about this idea of a spatial music practice across neighborhoods, and celebrating the idea of creative spaces built for people like us, right? I mean, we live in a city where these kind of spaces are, are constantly being impeded upon, right? And, New Orleans said, well, we're going to build space for our musicians to make sure that they come back, after the tragedy of Katrina. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I see that we are a little past 6:30, and it's been really wonderful to be able to share these experiences with all of you. Many of you who do work in the permanent realm of permanent art. And that's a topic of, I mean, I think this has been interesting to explore how permanent can be viewed in so many different ways.
Thank you all so much. Really
Yeah,
feel
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
everybody for joining us. I'm going to stop recording.